Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah, Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahweh Shah. Bashem Rakakradash. I'm Native Fearless, Israelite Washanan, coming back to you with another video. Shout out to all the Akim, all the apostles, all the elders scattered throughout the four corners of the earth, all the believers, all the people that's still coming in while we have this grace period. The doors of grace is still open, man. All praises to Yahweh. I'm going to start with Romans 7, and I'm going to go to verse 6. But the law no longer rules over us. We are like dead people, and it cannot have any power over us. Now we can serve Yahweh in a new way by obeying his spirit, and not like the old way by obeying the written law. Does this mean that the law is sinful? Certainly not, but if it had not been for the law, I would have not known what sin is really like. So what that means is that you serve Yahweh in spirit. Doesn't mean that the law is done away with. That means that once you obey the commandments, then you become back to life. Because if you don't obey the commandments, then you're like dead people. You see what I'm saying? So the law is still valid. Okay? You serve him in spirit. I would not known what sin is really like. For example, I would not have known what it means to want something that belongs to someone else unless the law had told me not to do that. It was sin that used this commandment. That used this command as a way of making me have all kinds of desires. But without the law, sin is dead. Okay? So that means without the law, sin is dead because you don't see that you're sinning. You don't see yourself sinning unless you know the law. You have to follow the laws, statutes, and commandments in order to see your sin. Remember that song by Michael Jackson, The Man in the Mirror? Well, picture your sins in the mirror. You'll never know the law or follow the law unless you know that you're sinning, okay? Before I knew about the law, I was alive. That means once you know about the law, then you become alive. But as soon as I heard that commandment, sin came to life and I died. That means that you seen the fault of your ways. You seen that you fell short of the grace of Yahweh. That's symbolizing, meaning that the wages of sin is death. So if you sin, that don't mean that you'll drop dead necessarily right away, but you're killing yourself spiritually, okay? There's a spirit man that grows out inside of the physical man that you see, okay? The very command that was supposed to bring life to me instead brought death. Sin used this command to trick me, and because of it, I died. Still, the law and its commands are holy and correct and good. That means you still have to follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. They're still good today. They are still valid. If you do not recognize that, that means you don't see your sin. So you're dead to it, okay? But once you start to follow the law, statutes, and commandments, then you see your downfall. Now you're ready to get back up and you're ready to grow in the spirit from a newborn into a full mature spirit of Yahweh Shah that he's ready to use. And as you're growing in the spirit, he's using you, okay? So he's molding us, okay? So we have to stay faithful, all right? Okay, let's go right here. Verse 14, we know that the law is spiritual, but I am merely a human, and I have been sold as a slave to sin. That means you open yourself up to sin. Sin doesn't just buy you off like that. Yeah, we're born into a world full of sins. That means that we're born into a world full of temptation. Things that make you come out sinning because you're in the flesh. So you come out as a sinner because your flesh is weak, but your spirit is willing. Excuse me, Salakia. In fact, I don't understand why I act the way I do. I don't do what I know is right. I do the things I hate. That means that your spirit is willing, okay? But your flesh is weak. So your spirit really hates the things you do when you go around being shiesty or you go around robbing people, or you go around talking down on people, or you just go around being a flat out Edomite spirited person, because that's what the spirit of an Edomite is. It's not necessarily a particular person. The Edomite spirit is the spirit of not having faith. The same way where Esau didn't have faith in his birthright, and he was willing to sell his birthright to Jacob for a morsel and a meat. Okay, so that means if you don't have any faith, whether you no matter what color you is, if you don't have any faith, that means that you are an Edomite, because you have the Edom right away, go get it spirit type of nature. You don't have a patient, faithful nature that's patient and waiting on Yahweh Shai. You have a right now, go get it type of spirit. And usually those spirits are those spirits that get you into trouble. That's why your mother would teach you to think before you speak, because there's a lot of temptation out here that's trying to sway you. Okay, so you got to stay strong in the faith. Although I don't do what I know is right, I agree that the law is good. That means you know the law is good. Okay, so what? You believe that there's a higher power, but you have to live this, okay? You have to live by these laws. So I am not the one doing these evil things. The sin that lives in me is what does them. I know that my selfish desires won't let me do anything that is good. Okay, you know sin lives in you, but you're too selfish to put your flesh in the back seat. You see, you want to let your flesh drive the vehicle instead of moving in the spirit like you should, because we are designed to move in the spirit. When we move in the spirit, we become better. We become a better being, you know, just being in these bodies, because these bodies are corrupted. So your flesh is weak, but your spirit is willing, and your spirit wants to do good, and it hates when it does bad, because your flesh is in control. So we have to learn how to think and walk in the spirit, okay? Instead of doing what I know is right, I do wrong. And so if I don't do what I know is right, I am no longer the one doing these evil things. The sin that lives in me is what does them. Okay. But once you learn once the sin in you is doing these things, then we have to learn how to overcome. The only way to overcome is believing in Yahweh B'Shem Yahweh Shah. That means praying. That means having faith, fasting, whatever we have to do to build and strengthen our faith. Those are the things we have to do. Don't worry about what nobody has to say about you, because whoever Yahweh set free, he is free indeed. So yeah, the scoffers, the haters, they're always going to try to remind you or try to get you to go back to this or go back to that, but you pay them no mind, because they don't want any salvation. So if they're unfaithful people and they don't believe, let them remain who they are. You go get your salvation, okay? All praises to Yahweh, B'Shem, Yahweh Shai, B'Shem, Wakakradash. Peace to all the Akim, all the elders, all the apostles, man, all the believers. Come on back, man. Shalom.